you good to go, Jane? Debbie, are we good to go in the back?
We are.
Okay. We'll wait for the clock to turn over for 9 o'clock. So close.
So just an opportunity to breathe and do a little meditation for 30 seconds, right?
There we go. Well, good morning, everyone. Today is Wednesday, February 21st, 2024, and we'd like to welcome everyone to the board meeting. We will call this meeting to order at 9 a.m. The teleconference number is 971-254-3149, conference ID 866-914-607#. Audio capabilities are listen only and are offered on a best effort for the public. Our meeting is also live streamed, and you can join us online by going to our website or to tctvonline.com and click on live broadcasts. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone to mute your phones. You can do this by pressing *6. Please unmute your phone when your agenda item is ready to be discussed. For those joining via computer, please unmute your microphone and turn on your camera when your agenda item is called. All others must remain muted with your cameras turned off. Thank you. Public comment. Those intending to provide public comment to the board may attend in person or email submissions to the public comments email on our website. Public comments received by 12 p.m. on Tuesday will be distributed to the board, posted online before the meeting, and become part of the public record. You may also provide public comment virtually by registering ahead of time. To register, please email public comments by 12 p.m. on Tuesday prior to the board meeting. Public comments can also be mailed to the Board of Commissioners office at 201 Laurel Avenue, Tillamook, Oregon, 97141. For more information on public comment options, please visit the Board of Commissioners webpage. Do we have anyone signed up in the room, or has anyone registered online for public comment?
No, neither.
Okay, thank you. Well, we'll call this meeting to order, and I'd like to welcome everyone who's with us in the room. It's delightful to have people here in the room with us. We very often just have people joining us remotely, so it's exciting to have you here in the room. And we'll start this meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Olson, will you lead us?
I will.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And I'd like to invite folks to sign the guest list if you are in the room and you haven't done so yet. It's on that little shelf right there. Well, we don't have any non-agenda items today, and we will start our meeting on item 5 on our agenda with the presentation from Northwest Regional Child Care Resources. I'd like to welcome Eva Manderson, Director. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's good to see you all.
And you.
So for Commissioner Olson, my name is Eva Manderson, and I'm the Director for Child Care Resource and Referral for Clatsop, Columbia, and Tillamook counties. I'll tell you a little bit about my organization as we go through the presentation, but just wanted to give you that context to start with.
Thank you.
So today I'm bringing to you some information about child care in Tillamook County, and then also some of the things that my organization has been doing to support the work of child care. I think the last time I was here was around Provider Appreciation last year, and so I'll give a plug for that when I get to the end. Would love to come back and visit you again for a proclamation for this year as well. So Debbie, next slide. Perfect. So Tillamook County is a child care desert. Definition of child care desert is that a child care desert exists when there are more than 3 children per licensed slot of childcare, or fewer than 33% of children have access to a licensed childcare slot. I'll give you some data on the next slide. So this is what Tillamook actually looks like in the last childcare desert survey. This is a report that's put out by Oregon State University. It is a study that's done every 2 years, and it is based on what we call the market price survey, where we survey all child care programs and ask what their rates are. And we also ask about vacancies at that time. So what they found in the report that ended in December of 2022, which was when we did our last market price survey, was that 5% of children 0 to 2 have access to childcare in Tillamook County, which is desperately below the 33% mark. And 20% of children 3 to 5 had access to a childcare slot. Compared to the rest of the state, I thought that would be an interesting number for you. 35% of all counties are a childcare desert for 0 to 2-year-olds. So childcare desert is a crisis in Oregon, not just in Tillamook. It is a crisis nationally. In 2018, when that study was done 2 times ago, so prior to COVID, 36 of the counties were childcare deserts. So something that has happened between 2018 and 2022. Clearly, COVID was a major hit to childcare, but as a result of COVID, there were investments made, ARPA investments and other investments made really with a eye towards expanding access. And I think that's why you start to see some of these numbers be different than they were in 2018. We definitely saw a drop in childcare and then that reinvestment where we've actually gotten, in some cases, a little bit better than where we were pre-COVID. 18 of the counties are childcare desert for 3 to 5-year-olds compared to 27 in 2018. So a big difference there as far as counties that are falling into that category. A little other information just for Tillamook specific. In 2022, we had a market price survey that ended right before COVID. They actually cut us off when COVID happened and said, well, we're done. We don't want numbers that are impacted by COVID. At that time, 4% of children had access that were 0 to 2 years old, so very similar to where we are now. Actually, we're a little bit better if we count a percentage as better. And 24% of 3 to 5-year-olds had access, so we haven't quite reached the levels that we were pre-COVID. In 2018, by comparison, 4% of 0 to 2-year-olds were in that had access. So again, we were still behind where we are now. And 21% of 3 to 5-year-olds had access. So we gained a little bit right before COVID. We lost. We had investment. And now we're on this upward mobility that we're trying to gain. Next slide, Debbie. So Tillamook childcare by the numbers. So I thought what would be interesting, this instead of looking at percentage, it's always interesting to look at number of programs. So the Child Care Resource and Referral Team maintains the Find Childcare Oregon database for Tillamook County. We do regular check-ins with programs. We ask how many vacancies they have. We update. This is the database that 211 Info or Find Childcare Oregon online gets referrals from. So we do the provider side of maintaining that data, and then that data allows for referrals out to families. A key point of this data is that any program that is licensed is required to be in the database. Any program that is exempt from licensing is not required to be in the database, although we try to give them all kinds of reasons why it's really important to be reflected in the numbers. Exempt programs are school district programs. They are exempt from licensing. Home providers who have 3 children or fewer are exempt from licensing. And preschool programs that operate for fewer than 4 hours a day are exempt from licensing. So to look at Tillamook numbers specifically, Debbie, next slide. There are 20 total active programs in the database for Tillamook County. When we break that down on the next slide, there are 3 registered family or certified family programs, and those are 2 different license types. So a registered family provider is smaller, usually 10 kids or fewer. A certified family provider is up to 16 children, and this is in a child care provider's home. A certified family provider, as you can well imagine, has a staff person. They don't have 16 kids by themselves, but a registered family provider might have up to 10 children by themselves. The next blue bar over is the certified centers. So these are centers like Tillamook Early Learning Center. they are licensed with the state, their spots are also counted in that percentage that factors into the Child Care Desert data. The next big blue bar is our exempt providers. So there are 9 exempt centers in Tillamook County. So your school district programs fit in here. That is 4 of the programs that are exempt. You've got a Parks and Rec program through the YMCA. That is an exempt program. Those are the types of programs that fit there. And then 4 exempt homes. So again, these are programs that are 3 kids or fewer. The little nuance of exempt care is that they can have their own kids plus 3 more kids, but if they become licensed, it's 3 kids including their kids. So you could, I do this often, this is a hazard of the job. I see a person walking down the street with 6 kids and I go, I don't know them. I don't know if they're licensed. And then I go, oh wait, but 3 of those kids might be theirs and 3 others might be others. So on the next slide, we can look at what this looks like across age groups. So 6 programs provide infant and toddler care. Again, that's the 0 to 2-year-old range. 14 programs provide preschool, which is the 3 to 5-year-old range, and then 6 offer school-age programs. What I might note there is those 3 home providers probably serve all 3 of those. So that's how those things get broken out. And the next slide. So some things that my team does to support the professionals. This is really our bread and butter of our work. The data is the interesting piece that we bring out to all of you, but the professionals are really interested in different things from us. So we offer different training opportunities. We help them advance their careers. We assist them with licensing if they want to become licensed. So talking to that exempt program and trying to get them licensed, we help them with that support. And we also help early educators that want to improve the quality of their programs. So, you know, struggling here, would really like somebody to come in and see me. My team will go in and do observations and help make suggestions for them and really look at the quality of the program and the environment that the kids are in. Next slide. This slide just shows a bunch of different things that we've got going on currently. So we just did a training series on combating gender stereotypes in infant and toddler programs. We have one that is really about well-being and workplace burnout for educators. We know that educators are really stressed right now. So how can we help you take care of you so you can take care of kids? And a variety of other things. We help them get their CDA, which is a child development accreditation. We are helping people go to college. There are a lot of college scholarships out there right now for early childhood education. And then on the not training, but other side of things, we help people with ERDC. So ERDC is employment-related daycare. This is the DHS support for families. We help them get all the things that they need to be able to receive state payment. We help them with grants. Currently, there's a grant out right now for expanding and starting up new programs. It was released on Monday. It can bring a new home provider up to $15,000 to start up their business. And so we're working with exempt programs to try to help them get licensed and access the grant, or maybe a registered family provider that wants to expand care, they could access the grant. So doing some of that outreach and helping them with grant writing sometimes becomes our thing that we do. And business support. So we work with your local SBDC to bring business support things to providers. So a lot of things that we're doing with professionals. On the next slide, I talk a little bit about support that we have in communities. So we also convene community leaders. We started doing that pre-COVID. We became very active during COVID, and it hasn't slowed down at all for us because COVID kind of shined a spotlight for us on childcare. Not that childcare wasn't a challenge pre-COVID, it really was, as evidenced by Tillamook County's work on the childcare task force pre-COVID. But we got to COVID, everybody went, oh my gosh, there's a problem with childcare, and we started convening more meetings, and people were interested in attending and having those conversations, and so we've just continued that pace. On the next slide, there are some things that are happening in your neighboring counties. Clatsop County has looked at what Tillamook County was doing with their task force and said, hey, we want to do that. And so they started meeting a couple of their county commissioners and some other local leaders. Their county, prior to COVID, had put in their strategic plan that they wanted to address childcare. So then when COVID happened and they got ARPA money, they invested $500,000 to support childcare, and they developed a grant program. That grant program has received another additional $500,000+ from local businesses and foundations, and have turned around and used that money to go back out to programs to say, we want to support you. How can we do that? We want to support you in ways that make sure that you've got living wages for your workers, which has always been a challenge in childcare, and we want families to be able to afford what that costs. So in those grants that were given out, there's been a lot of helping programs with their business acumen and developing rates that are realistic to be able to support living wages for their people. But what that means is some families can't afford that rate. So they've developed scholarship programs, and they're really working on helping families access ERDC when they're eligible for it, and then scholarships on top of that if they're not eligible for ERDC. Really great program. The most notable thing that I would say there is that in the 2022 Child Care Desert study, they actually were one of the programs that or one of the counties that moved out of being a child care desert for 3 to 5 year olds. All of the other investments that have happened in Tillamook and Columbia County and across the state were the same. These grants were something that was different, and we feel like that played a huge part in making that move. Columbia County also has a group. They're called the Columbia Child Care Collective instead of the advisory. I tend to get them mixed up at times and drive people crazy with that, but we live with so many different acronyms in early learning that I try not to do that to people. So they are working to emulate the Clatsop model. They have done some of their own learning. They've really watched what's happening with Clatsop County. They've got a grant out right now to hire a program manager. This is some of what Clatsop County has done is they've got a program manager that manages this work. They also have done some work with employers, helping them to develop strategies to help their staff. And they've got cities instead of counties who are working to add childcare to their strategic plans. So just a little bit different twist, but still working on that. And then in Tillamook County, Tillamook Creamery Association is very interested in childcare, and so we've engaged in their conversations. It's been nice not to lead those conversations. I'm very thankful for the Creamery for doing that work and just staying connected to that and seeing where that goes. And I would end with just saying Provider Appreciation is coming up. This is a national recognition for childcare providers. It's intentionally held nationally the weekend of Mother's Day because we're looking at all the people that care for kids. It's also Teacher Appreciation Week, so a really important week, I think, for kids and families. May 10th is Provider Appreciation Day, so I would love to come back to you for a proclamation to proclaim that day for Tillamook County. We will be holding events on May 18th. We don't want to compete with Mother's Day, but we'll be holding some training events and hosting some lunch and some door prizes, and would love to welcome any of you that would like to attend as well. And with that, I would entertain any questions that you have for me.
Thank you so much. Commissioners?
Oh, sure. Thank you. Well, Eva, I appreciate you coming and giving this presentation. Eva and I were meeting and talking because when Commissioner Bartlein left, one of the things that I also stepped into was the Child Care Task Force. And so we met for, I think, the first year roughly of my commissioner life. And then we took a break because we really felt that we were working hard with one another as providers, but we needed to have some additional voices at the table. And we did some work, and TCCA has brought some additional voices to the table. There is a project and a process that is almost complete. It's like right there. In fact, I met with Paul Snyder from TCCA on Monday to get an update on that, and I expect that that report and process that they have been working on will be released shortly, because they brought together a group of businesses, essentially of larger businesses, to help look at what the task force had created as an initial product and look across the spectrum at what was being done in other places, and then to really create hopefully a strategy that can work for Tillamook County. So for everyone who says, is anything happening? It is, and it's almost ready to see the light of day. Often you have to just do some work to get ready to bring it out to the community. So that's coming very soon. But Eva, I appreciate your time and sharing with folks, because this is a huge topic of conversation. When we talk about out in the community, what are the crisis pieces that we're dealing with? Housing is there and childcare is there, because all of that relates to workforce, which really is, another piece of that large crisis. These are all tied together. So just knowing where we are, where the foundation is really important, as then we look at this project that will be coming forward to look at how do we move hopefully from desert status, as Clatsop has done, into the next level, which is called scarcity. So it lets you know that even when you move past desert status by having, more than the 33% of your slots, you're still not there. You move from there to scarcity, so there's a lot of work to be done, but I'm excited that this work is coming soon, and I appreciate you giving us the basis and the groundwork. So as we look at that work coming forward, we'll have something to start from and know what our hopes are for the future.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Commissioner?
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. I have a couple of questions, and thank you for coming. And I don't know too much about this. Can you tell me your source of funding and what's on your paycheck? Not how much. Just
Absolutely. So a big portion of the child care resource and referral is funded through the CCDBG federal funding.
yes, block grants.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. So we get funding from the feds, goes to Department of Early Learning and Care, and Department of Early Learning and Care contracts out to 15 child care resource and referrals across the state. This is national work. In some states, it is called something different, but mostly it's called child care resource and referral. And so there's that pass through the state. My backbone agency is Northwest Regional ESD. And so that money goes to the ESD, and then we are, my team is employed by the ESD to do this work.
Thank you. What would you say, as an educated guest, how large is the underground service, meaning those who haven't bothered? I'm sure there are
Great
people.
question. You must have been in my ear before I got here.
Oh, not actually, but I have 3 kids, and years ago, I remember paying $75 a week for 3 children, which today would be unheard of, I'm sure. That was quite some time ago. But so I'm sure there are those who take them in without benefit of any sort of licensure or checking or safety measures. Do you have any estimate how large that is?
I'm not sure that I would put a number on it, but I would tell you that I was in my office this morning at 8:15. One of my employees came up to me and she said, "Do you think that house across the street is doing childcare?" And she pointed at a different house than the one that I thought was doing childcare. So I think that's just maybe a little story of what I think is out there. We definitely see people seeking childcare on Facebook groups. The startling thing to me there is sometimes the posts are, "Hey, I need somebody to watch my kids tomorrow," and somebody replies, and that's where the kids go. And there is no regulation around that. That's not to say that exempt programs couldn't be quality programs. I do think there are quality programs out there, but it just would be really nice to know that kids are going to spaces where we know adults have been background checked and there's at least some set of eyes on that program. Doesn't have to be all the time, but we also know that even with licensed programs, there can be things that happen there too. So there's always a tension there with that, is trying to figure out how do we get more programs in the system so they're on the radar so we can be there helping them. One of the other stories related to that is we often hear exempt programs say it's so hard to become licensed, and my team's job is to make that easy for them. So any training that they're required to do to become licensed comes to them for free from our team. We help them connect with licensing, we help them set up their spaces, we help them put together a business plan. And the costs associated really are pretty minimal.
Are sprinkler systems required? I've heard that, the reason I asked.
That was some fun in the legislative session last year, and no, unless they're opening a new center that's a larger
Like
center.
beyond their home.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Just one or two more. I can remember having been in business for a number of years in Tillamook County when we had employees actually bring their child to work because they could not find childcare. So I appreciate the dilemma that they face. And one final, just kind of an anecdotal here, my wife and I have been going to the same dentist for many, many years, and one of our hygienist individuals said she had 2 children, and she basically was working for free. In other words, and this was in the Beaverton, Tualatin area in Portland. But those 2 children, whatever she was paying, consumed her entire salary, which is probably pretty good, well into not 6 figures, but, a living wage. And she said she wanted to remain at her profession and keep up with what was going on. And so their family had made the choice to put the youngsters in there and pay her entire salary, basically, so that she could keep working. And so I thought, is it really that expensive that you can pay $60,000 or $75,000 a year for 2 children? And evidently it is.
It is.
So,
It is.
wow.
In a past life, I was the director at Tillamook Early Learning Center, and I had 3 children there. And regularly, my take home after I paid for my childcare was $200 a month.
Wow.
And that was even after juggling, hey, it's nap time. I'm going to take them home so I don't have to pay for nap time, and doing some of those things. I think the real challenge is that we want those educators and those teachers and those childcare professionals to also make a living wage. And so when you spread that out over however many children, it does become expensive. And so the thing that I've started to say is there is a real cost to childcare, and either parents pay it or the childcare provider pays it by not getting enough wage. Or there's a division, or there's some investment that helps to make both of those things really happen. And it's a broken system that needs investment and needs some fixes.
Well, thank you. It's very, very informative, and I would look forward to your returning here and coming before this commission anytime you want. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity to raise the issue, to raise awareness about childcare and about childcare as a desert in Tillamook County. I think it's an issue that can go under the radar, because if it doesn't directly impact them, if they don't have kids who need childcare, they're not thinking about it. But Commissioner Scar talked about this a little bit. The impacts are so much broader than just people with young children. It impacts the workforce. I think a lot of people are aware that there's a shortage in the workforce, and this is part of that. It really is. If people can't find safe, quality care for their children, then they'll stay home with them because they don't have an option. So, we need those parents in the workforce. And I'm, of course, happy for people who can stay home and it works out for their family, et cetera. But we need parents in the workforce. And very often it's moms, but not exclusively. We need parents in the workforce. And so it impacts all of us that way. It also impacts our ability to retain or attract or retain young families. So for our whole community to be vital and sustainable, we need young people who want to live here, want to stay here, or want to go to college and come back here, want to raise their families here. We need young people for our community to be healthy. And if there's no childcare, then it's very hard for young people to live here. And I have a story about that. When I worked at the hospital, there was a young healthcare provider who became a mom this was a young professional couple, fabulous, everybody loved them, and they had a baby and they couldn't work out childcare. And they tried for over a year, maybe a year and a half. They tried and tried and tried, and they couldn't work out childcare, and they ended up moving to the metro area where, they could have gotten jobs anywhere, but they wanted to live here. So it was significant loss to our community. It was a loss in terms of healthcare providers. It was a loss in every possible way. And they had to leave because they couldn't work out childcare. So it impacts us in a broad sense in ways that I think just, generally walking around in our daily lives, we don't think about if we don't have kids. So I'm really grateful for the conversation and grateful for your work in the field. And thank you very much for coming and talking to us about it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Eva.
Okay, we will move on to item 6 in our agenda and invite Judge Trevino to come up, please. This is consideration of a grant, State of Oregon Criminal Justice Commission Grant Agreement, SCP-23-53 for the Specialty Court Grant Program. With us, we have the Honorable Mari Trevino, Tillamook County Circuit Court Judge. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you for having me. I think last time I was here was asking you to apply for a grant for Family Treatment Court, and I kind of went through at that point what Family Treatment Court is. And we did receive approximately $25,000 from the Criminal Justice Commission for our grant. That amount includes about $20,000 for a clinician from Tillamook Family Counseling, which is primarily what we asked for. It includes a small amount for supplies, $2,300 for tablets and phone cards, and that's the county's sort of portion of the grant. And then it also included approximately $3,000 for the conference that I talked about last time, which is the national conference for treatment courts, drug courts, et cetera. So enough for, staying at a cheap Airbnb, it might be enough depending on where in the country for both the coordinator and myself to go. So that was really exciting to get the grant, and I'm excited to move forward. There is also a grant agreement, which I've printed out, that's actually something the county signs instead of the court. It does outline the reporting requirements that I'd indicated that is not a county requirement. That is something my staff will do, so you don't have to worry about that. Some of the reporting is just the computer system reports for, and some is a narrative, and I will do the narrative portion. So I do have that, and I'm hoping the board would be willing to sign the grant agreement. And if you have questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you so much. Questions?
Actually, could you do a brief overview description of the program itself? We had a public comment questioning, just wanting to understand more about the program.
Sure.
So if you wouldn't mind reviewing that, I think that would be helpful.
Absolutely. So Family Treatment Court is a collaborative approach for families who have their children in dependency court, which is basically DHS care. And it is a year-long program at a minimum that helps families or parents work through milestones, basically to overcome substance abuse issues. Usually there are related behavioral health challenges, co-occurring kind of stuff that's going on, but parents come in every week. It's a supportive, collaborative environment. We have a team which consists of myself, the coordinator, a dedicated clinician from Tillamook Family Counseling who's fabulous. CASAs come, Parents and Child's Council comes, DHS, obviously. DHS is person that does treatment stuff, and we try to support parents in a positive, collaborative way to get the help they need to have their children returned sooner. So that's basically what Family Treatment Court is.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No
Yeah.
problem.
This is another opportunity to really meet people where they are, you know, when they come into our court systems because of something that's happened in their life, and we simply either, in these cases, you know, put their children in foster care and say, sorry, that isn't getting to the solution. It's not getting to the solution for the family. If we end up with these folks in jail serving time when really it's substance use disorder that's at the heart of this, again, we're not creating future success for them or for their children. So this is one of these amazing programs that's available now to really meet people where they are, to say to someone, you know, here's where you are in your life, here are the traumas and the challenges, looking at the adverse childhood experiences that may have led them to this place, and saying, we want to help you. We don't want to punish you for where you are, we want to help you. But we can, through the court system, really require them to walk with us, which is a difference that's really important in some cases. That's that driving force that says, okay, this is the time to do this, and the court will provide the supports that are needed, but also a little bit of encouragement, if you will, to do this work. So I'm really excited for it. I think that so often the services that are needed are not there as wraparound services for families, and so they end up just cycling back through. And this is an opportunity, much like the behavioral health court that we've talked about previously, that is under Judge Hill, that looks at folks with behavioral health issues. This one is really specific to families, and it's an amazing thing. So thank you for bringing it forward. Happy that the county gets to be a partner with this, and that we can really provide people the supports they need to move forward in a really positive way in their lives, for the family, for the children, for everybody.
Yeah, and to me, out of all the work I've done, I've been doing this a long time, it is the best. It is the best thing that I do, because it is meant to be a non-confrontational, cooperative process to try to help families. So it's near to my heart, and I enjoy it.
Good, thank you.
Wonderful. Commissioner?
Well, thank you, Judge, for your remarks. And I guess what I appreciate most about this is that you and Judge Hill and other colleagues here are hands-on. You're not sitting up on the bench all the time and letting the staff and so on do these things. My short time here and history through the county is our judges here, including you and Judge Hill and perhaps others. You're in the deep end of the pool, so to speak. You're hands-on, you're making these things happen, and I appreciate that. I can see how maybe in a larger jurisdiction, it would be clerical matters or administrative matters, not rising to the level of a judge, but you're the ones who make the decisions, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate you've got a personal stake in this. Thank you.
And it's really different than normal court, because I do not wear a robe. I do not sit above people. I sit at the table in my regular clothes with parents and people, trying to tell them that I care about what happens to them. And I think it's really effective that way. So it is very different than my normal role. Yeah. Nice to get the robe off once in a while.
I really value the mission of the program and the shift from your regular role. You know, in your regular role as a judge, you're required to judge people and issue consequences. And in this role, you have the opportunity to really help people, provide external supports to help people change in order to keep families together or reunite families. And it's really, I think the mission of that is extraordinary and wonderful. And I'm glad that we're doing that here, and that you in particular are doing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're ready for a motion.
Okay, Madam Chair, consideration of a State of Oregon Criminal Justice Commission grant agreement, SCP-23-53, for the Specialty Court Grant Program. I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you
Jen.
very
Thank you.
much. Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to item 7, which is consideration of a 2024 to 2025 intergovernmental agreement number 026023 for the financing of community mental health, addiction treatment, recovery and prevention, and problem gambling services. Do we have Frank Hanna-Williams with us remotely?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
This is Good morning. This is Frank Hanna Williams, Director, Tillamook Family Counseling Center. And this is, as it says, the consideration of this intergovernmental agreement. This is the primary agreement between with the Oregon Health Authority and Tillamook County, and for the financing of services to the agency for this period of time. This particular intergovernmental agreement covers the period from January 24 to June 30th of 25. The financing year has sort of been all over the place for the last period of time, but it is now moving back to what was the old biennial agreement. So it will be reset to that period of time. So we're talking about an 18-month intergovernmental agreement here. This is the IGA that brings funds from the State General Fund, Mental Health Block Grants for needed services through the Oregon Health Authority to the entity that you are contracting with, which is Tillamook Family Counseling Center. It covers for the financing of a range of services that support the areas that are outlined here: mental health, community mental health, addiction treatment and recovery and prevention, problem gambling services, crisis intervention services to adults, teens, and youth, services that allow us to do collaboration with corrections and provide crisis supports. This amount of dollars, when combined with other sources, Oregon Health Plan, which is Medicaid, Medicare, other health insurances, the amount of dollars that people pay with their own health insurance or may pay with their own dollars through our sliding scale. All of those combined with the amount of dollars that come through this intergovernmental agreement contributes to us being able to, number one, provide the services, and also to be able to pay for the staff to provide them. So this is a piece of a total package. I just wanted to mention that. For this 18-month period, this amount of dollars totals to it's close to $3 million, and it's right around 3.1. I was doing a quick addition of the figures this morning, and it's right around that amount. So again, this is a large intergovernmental agreement, the beginning of a period of 18 months, and I ask your approval.
Thank you, Frank. Commissioners, you have questions for Frank?
Thank you. No, I have none. I believe it's been adequately explained, and I appreciate what his organization does. It sort of makes Tillamook County a complete community. Without something like this, we'd have a pretty big hole to fill. So I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Frank. I appreciate that. I think it's always a good time to remind the community that the county Board of Commissioners are the mental health authority technically for the county. These funds technically come to the county, and if you look across the state of Oregon, you will find that some counties have their own departments that utilize these funds and provide these services. In Tillamook County, we subcontract to Tillamook Family Counseling for these services. So it is under our authority and under our responsibility that these services are provided, as we are the mental health authority. So I think that's always an important piece to remind people, because you will look across the state and see a variety of different models. We're very fortunate to have Tillamook Family Counseling with us. The other thing, I don't know, Frank, how much this has increased over the last 3 years since I've been here, but there definitely at the state level has been an understanding and awareness that continues to grow around the need for behavioral health services and what's been added to your department. I believe the 24-hour crisis, as an example, has been added in the last 3 years. I think there are a number of different things because the state is becoming aware. So it's a good thing, more funds are flowing. It is a challenging thing because the workforce for behavioral health is very hard to come by. But I know Tillamook Family Counseling has been working really hard to add staff. So there's some challenges in it. But Frank, has this amount grown? Am I thinking of that correctly in the last few years?
Everything's grown. And everything's grown. The challenges have grown, and yes, it has grown. And in fact, and I think that in some respects there are some things that the Oregon Health Authority used to fund in relation to some services which are not as much as they have, which are a little bit different, and that is that there is a bit more that is being picked up by the Oregon Health Plan. So there's been a little bit of change in relation to that. But I think that it's a bit more focused this time, a little more focused on what especially is the attempt to make sure that we are being able to do crisis intervention in the community, and that has been that is an additional and a specialized focus this particular 18 months. It creates some challenges. Some of those challenges are staffing, but I think that in answer to your question, it has increased, and I think that in another time, the staffing challenges were not as much. So it's on one hand, we have a few more resources to work with, but a few more challenges to work around. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Frank. I appreciate that. There's a new director at the Oregon Health Authority that is just getting started, so I think we're all curious to see where that goes and see if that changes any of the aspects of the relationship between the Oregon Health Authority and the counties, particularly some of the terms of the contract, which have been a bit contentious over the last year. So lots yet to come, but I think a reminder that we are part of a larger system. The state can designate the funding, but they can't do anything about services that comes to us as the county, and in our case, a subcontract. So crucial stuff.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, and appreciate the opportunity to serve, and I thank you very much for your support.
Thank you, Frank. I also am grateful for Tillamook Family Counseling services in our community, and I was just looking at the list of things that I read into the record under this item number, and thinking about how important these things are in our community mental health, addiction treatment, recovery and prevention, problem gambling services, and as you both mentioned, the crisis intervention services. Those things and the ability to treat them and respond to them directly impacts the quality of life in our community, and in all kinds of ways, including the family treatment court that Judge Dorino was just talking to us about. So the ability of families to recover and get better and move on with their lives. So thank you for the work you do, and I'm pleased that we have you as a partner.
Thank you.
I think we're ready for a motion.
So, Madam Chair, in consideration of a 2024-2025 intergovernmental agreement number 026023 for the financing of community mental health, addiction treatment, recovery and prevention, and problem gambling services, I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, we will move on to item 8, which is consideration of a federal RAISE grant application for the Rockaway Beach Connection, a Salmonberry Trail project. I don't know if we have Gavin Mahaley in.
I saw him up there. Yeah.
Okay, terrific. Gavin Mahaley, Communications and Development Director of the Salmonberry Trail Foundation.
Thank you to the Chair and Commissioners for allowing me to present about the federal RAISE grant that the Salmonberry Trail Foundation has been working on with Alta Planning and Design, with support from Tillamook County, the City of Rockaway Beach, Oregon Coast Scenic Railway, and many others. We are asking that the county be the lead applicant because of their strong history with managing federal grants. The grant ask is for $25 million to build a segment of the Sangre Trail in Rockaway Beach from Washington Street in the south to Beach Street at Manhattan Beach State Recreation Site in the north. That is difficult to say. The segment will enhance the city of Rockaway Beach with safer pedestrian crossings of 101, a more walkable downtown, safe routes to school for students, and convenient access to transit and local businesses for residents and visitors alike. It will also be an economic engine to the region by incentivizing private investment, alleviating some household transportation burdens, encouraging tourism, and connecting tourists to all parts of town, regardless of where they lodge. Oh, sorry, I was reading some of that because I just didn't want to forget anything, and I forgot to turn on my camera. And I'd be happy to share a map if that would be useful for folks to see.
We'd love to see a map, please.
Yeah. And forgive me, sometimes I'm very bad with Teams. I apologize. There seems to be a security issue with my computer not allowing me to show the map without leaving and coming back. But I'm happy to do that if we have a second.
Debbie, do you have a suggestion?
He could send it to me and I could share it if he wants to email it to me quickly.
Would you?
Oh, it seems to have forgiven me. It's allowing. Here we go. Okay, can everyone see this map of Rockaway Beach?
Not yet, but just a moment, because sometimes there's a little bit of lag in the room. There it is.
Gotcha. Great. Okay, so here we are. We can see Washington Street to the south, and each one of these dots, the pins that we've dropped, are going to be crossings of Highway 101. That and the yellow line is the existing right-of-way, where we plan to widen the rail berm, but keeping it in the existing right-of-way footprint. So as to keep everything nice and tidy. And we'll just go with a little walkthrough here. And so we can see that there's many more crossings that happen downtown, which connects the south end and the north end easily to the shops and businesses downtown, while also providing everyone a way to get down to the big tree and also getting up to Manhattan Beach. And we have also with us here is Mike Sellinger from Alta, who recently did or just finishing up the cost benefit analysis on the whole project. And the numbers he shared with me yesterday are really quite stunning. So I will leave this and let Mike have share some of that with you.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Gavin. Thank you, commissioners. My name is Mike Sellinger. I'm a transportation planner with Alta Planning and Design. Been working with the Salmon Berry Trail Foundation on the benefit cost analysis for this project. This is a key part of these RAISE grant applications. They're a competitive grant, and the federal government really wants to fund some of the most beneficial projects to communities across a number of different benefit categories. Just a quick snapshot of some of the results we found. We looked at benefits across categories that correspond to the grant criteria, which are safety, environmental sustainability, including reductions in pollutants, quality of life, including increased physical activity within the community, economic competitiveness, which has to do with household transportation costs and congestion, as well as state of good repair, which has to do with the maintenance of roadways. Happy to share the results came out very good for this proposed project. Running through some of the benefits, the overall benefits for the project over a 20-year period are estimated to be $55 million. And that's largely driven by two categories. The first being safety. That's really where we found this project to have the most impact. $39.8 million of that is projected to be safety benefits. And that's due to the crash history and very dangerous conditions on 101 through Rockaway Beach. There have been multiple pedestrian fatalities over the last 6 years, as well as a number of other incidents. So that following how the U.S. Department of Transportation looks at safety benefits and impacts, this project is projected to score very high among that. The other one is in that quality of life category and around increased physical activity. We've estimated the number of users on this trail to result in a net of 80,000 bicycle and pedestrian trips per year. Over, across the community, research has shown that that has a large impact on physical health and reducing mortality across the population. So those are the two major benefit categories, and happy to answer any questions or dig into any of the details on how we approach this analysis.
Thank you.
Happy to answer any
Oh,
questions
and
about the
sorry,
grant
I
itself,
forgot.
too.
I did forget the bottom line is we have to present a benefit cost ratio, and that number came out to 1.51, which is really strong. You need to be above 1 for these to be competitive, but 1.5, meaning we have a 50% more benefits than costs. So I do think this would be a very competitive application.
Terrific. Commissioners, questions?
Thank you. My question is, the amount is 25 million, is that what I heard? And
That's
I'm
correct.
assuming, it seems high to me, but I'm certainly not familiar with the costs. I do understand prevailing wages and all of that. However, I'm assuming this is higher because of the complexity of the railroad, and you're in a developed, well-developed area in the middle of an incorporated city. And if you were in the open countryside, I'm assuming per mile it would be somewhat less. Is that a fair statement?
That is fair. We are building a Rails with Trails project. So there's more cost, and now we're extending or widening the berm for 10 feet and then building retaining walls along that way to keep it within the existing rail envelope. So that adds price. We're not doing any rail salvage. So that is really where a lot of the extra costs come from.
Do you know the total amount of money available for this sort of thing nationally? In other words, I'm assuming there's competition from all over the country for this.
It's highly competitive. And I think the most that we can ask for is 25 million. So we really looked for a project along the coast that was able to come in underneath that. And the Rockaway Beach segment fit because of their community paths grant and other work that they've been doing really nonstop to help ready the Rockaway Beach for this trail.
Well, I'm in support of it. Thank you. I think you've done a good job, and it sounds as if we at least have a significant chance, so go for it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate this very much, Gavin and Mike. So I sit on the Salmonberry Trail Foundation Board and the STIA organization, as I've talked about before. So I've been involved in the sort of preparation of this, and we started out with a number of different segments as possibilities that met the different criteria. And as the evaluation continued, this one absolutely rose to the top without question as the one that would be most competitive. It also was a really key piece that we have the partnership of the city of Rockaway Beach, and we have 3 members of the city of Rockaway Beach, or 2 members, sorry, of the Rockaway Beach, and then Dan Haig, our trails coordinator, with us today as well. Oh, okay, sorry, I did not meet the gentleman in front this morning. So we do have 3 members of Rockaway with us, so I don't know if we want to invite them to talk a little bit about what this could mean for their community as part of our evaluation process. I'll leave that up to you, Madam Chair, but it is definitely one of the key factors that also made this a great location, because the Salmonberry Trail, once built, also has to be managed and maintained. And so as we look at how that's going to happen across the county, it's a bit of a challenge to determine who those partners will be. In this case, we have a natural partnership with Rockaway Beach, which is absolutely fantastic. So I am pleased that the county can provide the capacity to apply for this grant. That was probably the only way it was going to be competitive. So just super excited that we could actually get the Salmonberry Trail under construction within the next 5 years with this grant. And Commissioner Bartline, former Commissioner Bartline, always says, I hope we get some section of it built before I die so I can walk it. So if Bill's out there listening somewhere, the call to action of the Salmonberry Trail Foundation is to get Bill on this trail in his lifetime. So this really makes that a possibility. The other amazing thing is if we don't turn out to be successful this year, by getting this grant application in, we do not have to redo all of the work next year. It will be considered next year and bumped up in its consideration, as I understand it, based on having been considered this year. They will tell us what, if anything, we could do better and allow us to augment if we wish. So it's just a really good opportunity, and I'm excited to get it in front of the USDOT and see if we can get some of those funds in Tillamook County.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah.
I would like to invite our guests to come up if you would like to. If you'd like to come up and say something about this project, you're very welcome.
Thank you, Mary.
Please
When
introduce
I
yourself.
I'm Mary McGinnis, and I'm a city councilor in Rockaway Beach. And when I sent the email inviting other people to come to the meeting, I said, all we have to do is sit there and smile. But I welcome the opportunity to talk about this project because it has been many years in the making. You mentioned former Commissioner Bill Bartline. When we first started working on this, I think he had the liaison position that you have now. And I would say that Rockaway has probably been working on getting our segment of the trail for 6 or 7 years at least, and have had some peaks and valleys and mostly related to funding. It will make a big difference in our city, as I think the guest speakers mentioned. As anyone knows who's been to Rockaway, we don't have sidewalks through town. And when he mentioned Manhattan Beach, just for clarification, that is across the Highway 101 from our middle school and high school. So this will be the first time that children going to school who live in Rockaway will be able to actually walk to school without walking on the right-of-way side by side 101. And that's a big factor. We also are looking at economic benefits, bringing more businesses to our, more customers to our downtown businesses and helping them thrive in the off-season more, you know, when people can't get on the beach. And then also, I guess, I will just end with that we're also excited to be part of the whole Connected Trail. It will be very nice someday to have people ride from Wheeler or Bay City into Rockaway on their bikes and just connect our whole economy in the area. And I'll be glad to answer questions if you have any.
Thank you. Do we have any questions?
No, I think she covered it quite well, and the material is there, and I haven't been to Rockaway since last night. It was a pretty ugly night, I must say, pouring down rain and all, but anything that can be done, and your remarks about the youngsters being able to get to school more safely, that's important. Thank you.
Yeah, just thank you, Mary. I appreciate you all being here, and just I'm excited for what can come.
I'm grateful to you,
No.
yes, for coming too, and thanks for coming up and talking to us. I think it's so important, and it is exciting to be at this point. And I loved the points that were made earlier about safety, safety in the community, because Rockaway Beach is a destination, and especially in tourist season, it's so densely packed with people who are walking along 101 and they're crossing 101, and it really is unsafe. And so from the safety perspective, but also from the livability perspective of everyone who lives there being able to use that trail is really exciting to me. And I was thinking about in my own story. I don't live in Rockaway Beach, but I raised my son here in Tillamook County, and there wasn't any reasonably safe place for him to ride a bike.
Right.
And so at all. So, just the idea that in our lifetimes, maybe even in the next 10 years, there could be a stretch of trail that's safe for local children to ride bikes on is thrilling to me. So I think this is really great. And I'd like to mention that we got a lot of public comment in support of this application. So it broadly, people are supportive of this application. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you, Gavin and Mike, for presenting. Appreciate your work.
Thank you.
If there's nothing else, commissioners, I think we're ready for a motion.
Okay. Madam Chair, in consideration of a federal raised grant application for the Rockaway Beach Connection, a Salmonberry Trail project, I move approval.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks to our visitors. All right, moving on to item 9, I will invite Cammie and John up to the front for item 9, which is consideration of an order in the matter of a notice of intent to award a contract for the Tillamook Tillamook County Fairgrounds Electrical Services Upgrade Project. So welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
Please introduce yourself for the
Yes.
record.
Camby Von Sagern, Tillamook County Fair Director.
And John Abel with Cornerstone Management Group.
Wonderful.
So we are here today, actually John is here today, to give you information on just another piece of our West Power project that we have finally started. Really excited that this is moving forward, and this is, again, just one small piece that we need to facilitate the continuation. So I'll let John explain.
Thanks, Cammie. So we went out and hired PA Engineering to design this project. Like Cammie said, it's a phase project, and this first phase is to really redo how the power comes into the fairgrounds. There's a lot of overhead lines now, which on Faraday and that sort of thing is unsafe. So we worked with PA Engineering to get them hired and design this. We took it out to bid, and on January 10th, we advertised it in the Daily Journal of Commerce. We had pretty good bid interest on this job. One nice thing is right now, there's a lot of contractors looking for work. So we ended up, touring quite a few people on the project, and we received bids and got 3 bids on the project. We went through a review process, and we are recommending an intent to award to Farnham Electric Construction, and it's a complete bid, including all the underground and work that's associated with it, vaults and repair of asphalt and that sort of thing. So I think, we'd take any questions about that that you might have, but we felt like it was a good competitive bid process, and recommend intent to award.
Thank you. Cammie, I wonder if I can call on you to just talk a little bit more about what it will accomplish?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, this process has been kind of long in coming. We worked with Tillamook PUD. They gave us an overview of where all of our lines are, both underground, both above, what it would do. We're bringing in a new 3-phase power because currently the fairgrounds is completely maxed out with everything that we have, not just during fair time, but if we wanted to host any large event, we're very limited on what we can do in specific areas. So the West Power project, we divided it into sections. This is basically our phase 1, and this is phase 1A. What this will do is, like John had mentioned, it will take out all of our overhead power lines near our 4-H dormitory and that front section along 3rd Street, which are very dangerous. We have a lot of vendors that are there. We had a near accident several years ago during fair time because something actually touched one of the power lines. So PUD is very excited to help us with this project to get those taken care of. It will also help isolate, I would say, kind of a mismatch of where the lines are and the distribution of the power. So there's a lot of heavy loads in one area and not so much in another. So this will clean up all of those aspects by placing, that's why we had the electrical engineer, placing I guess you would say the sub-power stations around the grounds on the west side so that we're accessing the power in an appropriate manner, and it's cleaner, it's facilitated in a direct line. We'll be bringing power from near TBCC. That power will extend down that paved drive up into the west side. We'll have several vaults placed, one for future, which will cross our track, which is in our courtyard area, one for current, which will be just before you enter the fenced area of the fairgrounds. In addition, it will clean up lines to our 4-H dormitory, the tennis courts, the dairy barn, livestock barn, and the riding pavilion. So this will be able to distribute power to each of those collectively so that we can hopefully, it will also include expansion of the pavilion when that comes to fruition, and just give us adequate power throughout the west side.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioners?
Thank you. Well, thank you very much for this presentation, and I will say for the record, I'm the liaison now to the Tillamook County Fair. I know Commissioner Bell had done that in the past, and our Fair Board, I'll just make a comment on them. Our director, Cammie, it's sort of like herding cats, and she's very good at it. It's probably the most enthusiastic, engaged board I've ever seen. They want to do this and that. They have, it's a working board if there ever was one. And I've seen the master plan now, and this is an integral part. And having been on the PUD board for a number of years, it was always a concern of all the wires hanging around and maybe underpowered and the power not in the right place and the transformers were maxed out and all those things. And so I think this is a really good step forward. The last thing I'd say is the master plan is sort of integrated with the college because of the parking area and some baseball fields that are going in and the college itself. So I'm wondering, Madam Chair, if at some point, maybe you and I could go to, you representing the college as a college board and liaison and the fair, we could schedule maybe in the spring I guess I'd say a public viewing starting here, excuse me, of the master plan of the whole complex, the college and the fairgrounds, because now they're integrated. There'll be baseball on the parking fields and a whole lot of other things happening. And I think maybe the community would appreciate a 45 minutes or an hour update, and maybe they could even develop a road show to put something out in banks and community centers and so on, because there's a story to be told. So as with respect to this, I think this is an excellent first step, and all the bidding process was complete, and as was mentioned, the market appears to be a little bit softer than it might have been a couple years ago. And so I'm assuming the price is where it should be, and I would look to these people to say that. But so a long remark to what is a first step forward, and I think there's a lot more to come, and I'd sure like to have the community at least sit and have a look at it. And other things are on the burner. I guess I could say one thing, the Fair Board is considering bringing in a 3-ring circus in around Memorial Day. So lots going, and it isn't just a county fair. This is a facility that's used by all of Tillamook County time and time again. There's a show here not too long, the Home and Garden Show and a few other things. So it's a premier facility, and to the extent it can be upgraded, you got my vote.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited. This was a project, as you said, had been long waiting, long overdue, and it's excited to have it moving forward. I think it might be helpful for viewers. Can you describe just briefly the relationship between the county and the county fair? Because I think people may be wondering, why is this contract coming up in front of the county? Because the county fair has its own board, it really does its own work, but there is this linkage. And I don't know, Cammie, maybe you're the best one to kind of just describe how those two fit together and why you're in front of us today to ask for this.
I will do my best. Yes, so Tillamook County Fairgrounds and Tillamook County Fair often get confused between the two. So the Tillamook County Fair is one of 36 in our state, and we are required to process through the county. You own the property, we manage the facilities. We get money through the state for all the county fairs get the same amount of money through the state, which was like a kickoff to our fair. Then we, I guess we rent, we manage all of the fairgrounds properties, and that is how we acquire our income. So we are independent of the county when it comes financially. We're not receiving any general funds at the moment. And so we operate And then we come before you, anytime that we have an agreement, anything to do with the property itself, then we need to have your permission and your blessing to see that these things are being done properly, and it will enhance the properties that you already own. So that's kind of where we are. Our fair board manages our fair, and we also manage it year-round. So not all the fairgrounds across the state do that. Some of them just do a fair. Some of them are county departments, and they take their information from their commissioners. So we like to think that we have a partnership. We have a good working relationship with everyone. We are able to use your county services as needed. So we're at this point now where we are entering into a contract and an agreement that requires your attention and your approval.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think it's just always interesting, we say when you've seen one county, you've seen one county, right? And as you mentioned, there are different relationships between county government and county fairs in other spaces. But here, you all are sort of your own entity that's utilizing county land and managing it. So appreciate that description. And I'm in support. I think there are TLT funds that are part of this project. We've done some TLT funding, I know, over the last few years for you. Is that correct, that some of these are TLT funds?
Yes, so just to be clear, the first portion of this project, we were able to receive, we were one of the 36 counties that would have applied for monies that came through House Bill 3410. So the fairs were awarded funding, and it was managed through Business Oregon, so we had to apply. This was the great project. It was already earmarked for some TLT funding from an application that we had put in several years ago and awarded through the county commissioners. So our application was accepted, and we were granted in the first round. So half of the fairs were in the first round. The other half, if accepted, would be in the second round. So we received $277,777 as divided equally amongst all of the fairs. So that money will be spent first. We are under a time frame on when we need to do that. And then secondarily, we'll be going to the county for the TLT funds of $250,000, which were awarded.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate that. I have no more questions.
Thank you. I'm excited to be having this conversation today. You're right, we've been talking about it for years. And Doug referred to the master plan. There is a plan in place that was developed maybe 6-ish years ago.
2016.
Thank you, 2016, to look at the vision for what the fairgrounds could be in the next 20 years or however long. Maybe sooner, hopefully, but it's a big plan, it's a big vision. And this is the first piece of this vision, as I understand, like the power part has to be repaired and resolved and developed in order for other things to happen. So I think it's thrilling that it's actually happening now. I appreciate Commissioner Scar's questions about the relationship between the fair and the county, because it is interesting. It is a partnership. I think it's a very effective partnership. You're not a county department, but you do receive some county services, and like IT, for example. And we are able to invest transient lodging tax dollars because it's a tourist facility. So that's a great use of those dollars as far as I'm concerned. And we know that people come from all over the state and from other states to visit our fair because we do have the best fair in the state. So that is true, and I'm sure that Doug would concur. So I think this is thrilling, and I'm ready for a motion.
All right, Madam Chair. In consideration of Board Order number 24-010, in the matter of a notice of intent to award a contract for the Tillamook County Fairgrounds Electric Services upgrades, I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you very much. And I would appreciate an opportunity to have a meeting with TBCC, yourselves, and go over our master plan. We do have a meeting in March to talk about a lot of the agreements that we've had in the past. So I'll be meeting with the college and be happy to loop you in on that as well.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 10 and 11, I have, so I'm going to read them both and talk about them both, but then we'll need to vote on them one at a time. So 10 is consideration of a contract for goods with Northside Ford Truck Sales, Inc. for the Parks Department vehicle purchase of a 2023 Ford F-250. And 11 is consideration of a contract for goods with Tillamook Motor Company, Inc. for the Parks Department vehicle purchase of a 2023 Ford F-150. So as some folks know, I am the interim director of parks, and I'm happy to carry this, and I'm happy we're getting some new vehicles. I feel like I could do a little jig right now, but I won't. I had heard that for a number of years that the parks vehicles were in a sorry state of disrepair, and that is absolutely true. I can attest to that. And part of the issue has been that several F-150s, this is one of 3 that is coming to us, several F-50s and a dump truck were ordered years ago, literally years ago. And the supply chain was so slow and stuck that it has taken over 2 years for these vehicles to finally be coming. And in the meantime, we discovered that we have a need for an F-250, and Northside Ford Truck Sales happens to have one on their lot that fit our bill. And so, and we had the money in there's been money sitting in the parks budget for vehicles for years, literally, for when vehicles would become available. So we talked to the treasurer, she said, yeah, you got the money in there for that. And it's on the lot, so we have a contract for it. So I am very happy that we are going to have some new vehicles on parks. I mean, it is laughable. It's really ridiculous. We had a staff meeting in parks yesterday, and we were talking about whether or not we should continue to repair a certain truck that Tillamook Ford will no longer repair because it's in such terrible shape, and Jiffy Lube won't work on it either. And so they're still using it, and they're taking care of it themselves, the park staff. And one of them cracked a joke to me yesterday and said, "This is the truck that you put oil in and you check the gas." Because it's that bad. So, and there are a number of vehicles that are actually that bad. So this is, and also there's a graveyard of vehicles that finally just gave up the ghost. So this is a new beginning for parks with new vehicles. And so I'm super excited that it's happening. Questions?
No, it's definitely needed. I remember when I first became a commissioner and went out and did the tour of parks and got to take a ride with parks employees around some of the facilities in one of these vehicles. And yes, they're unfortunate. And I know that the oil change place draws the line at a certain age, and I will say my classic car, which I have at home, is one of those they won't work on. So I know that the age of this vehicle probably goes way, way back. So no, I am absolutely in support.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. I've been around this stuff for a long time, and sometimes people accuse government of buying the latest and greatest, and I would say you're wrong. There are many, many cases where you drive things until they quit. And it's not just a matter of safety like it would be with law enforcement. It's a matter of economics and productivity and so on. And I can attest to the supply chain issues when I was on the PUD board to get the trucks that you see around the communities, any community with the big booms. Those were like 3 to 3.5 years out, if you can believe that. And I think pickups were not much better. And I know some of the other organizations that have literally had similar products on order for 18 months, 24 months, and maybe the market is changing. So if there's an opportunity to get it and bring back something that we can use, and this is not a 2 or 3 year investment. I'm guessing that future boards will be talking about replacing these in 10 or 15 years.
Likely.
So absolutely buy it and get it done and get ready for summer.
Thank you. I'd also like to thank Tillamook County Public Works for helping us procure the F-250. And they've been super helpful while I've been doing the role of interim, and as have other departments, been very, very helpful and supportive.
Perfect.
I think we're ready.
Okay, we will take these one at a time. Madam Chair, in consideration of a contract for goods with Northside Ford Truck Sales, Inc. for the Parks Department vehicle purchase 2023 Ford F-250, I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Madam Chair, in consideration of a contract for goods with Tillamook Motor Company, Inc. for the Parks Department vehicle purchase 2023 Ford F-150, I move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, item 12 is consideration of a letter to the Bureau of Land Management regarding Tillamook County request for cooperating agency status. Commissioner Scar.
Thank you. So we talked about this previously in a board briefing. We are part of the Association of ONC Counties, which was related to federal timberlands that exist in Tillamook County. And those timberlands no longer bring us a huge amount of harvest, but they are still here. We are still a part of that process. So the Association of ONC Counties is taking the lead for all of the ONC counties across the state of Oregon, is an intervener in the work relating to the update of the forest management practices for these federal lands. So BLM is opening up that process, and the counties are asking to be interveners. But in doing so, rather than having all of the counties that have federal lands sitting at the table, this would, the Association of ONC Counties would serve as our representative in that process. So this is the official letter that I had let you all know would be coming to give them that voice for us. So I ask the approval for Tillamook County to be represented in that way at the table.
Thank you. Just for our listeners, can you tell us what ONC is?
I can. It's the Oregon and California Railway. So interestingly enough, and there's a huge history on this. If you're interested, I encourage you to hit the internet and find out. But the federal government had lands that they had for the Oregon-California Railroad that was being built. And once the railroad was built, there were leftover lands that did not get utilized. And so those lands were given to the counties, to the counties to manage. And then at another point, the federal government actually said, well, we're going to actually keep the ownership, but you are going to get the timber revenue, and we'll work with you in a management sense. So it's this very strange relationship starting way back in the 1800s. So we are, one of the ONC counties, BLM, is managing the timber in those lands on our behalf. So that's what ONC is. It's a very, it's a long history. It starts back in 1862 with the Railroad Act for the first transcontinental railroad. So if you're a history buff, it's pretty cool stuff.
Thank you.
I have no questions. My understanding is this is almost routine, that we need to verify where our standing is and go on the record, and then rolls forward. And as Commissioner Scar said, ONC goes back well over 100 years. It's a long-standing practice, and the feds got involved, and railroads came to America before a lot of roads. So yes, I absolutely support going on the record, and let's get it done.
Thank you. As am I, fully supportive of our request to be a cooperating agency.
Perfect, thank you. So Madam Chair, in consideration of a letter to the Bureau of Land Management regarding Tillamook County request for cooperating agency status, I would move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Item 13 is consideration of a letter of support for the Oregon Department of Forestry's community-initiated project request. Commissioner Scar.
Thank you, and it says that I'm carrying this, but I see that Kate Skinner from ODF has joined us. I would love for her to come up
Please.
and go ahead and give us an explanation of the project and the letter of support. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. For the record, yes, I'm Kate Skinner, Tillamook District Forester for the Department of Forestry. And in an awkward moment, while I'm sitting in the back of the room, I was messaged that a letter of support is not required, but we would like one.
Oh,
so, so this application has gone to the governor's office this morning, I guess. So what this is part of the congressionally directed spending for Wyden and Merkley's offices. And what we have submitted in our grant application is kind of a two-part project. One is to help us develop a suite of tools, economic management, reforestation, that would be available to all landowners, private and public landowners, in the management of Swiss needlecast. So last time I was here, I talked a little bit about, we've kind of become the central point of Swiss needlecast impacts to our forest in Douglas fir, and it reaches, all the way up the coast into Washington and into BC at this point. So this grant would allow us to either hire a contractor or an employee to help us put together and work with like the Swiss Needlecast Cooperative, other landowners, scientists, to develop this suite of tools to make the best economic decisions as well as environmental decisions, and especially the reforestation plans. And then the second part of the grant is actually to start implementing those plans on state forest lands, specifically here in Tillamook County, and help us in those decision-making pieces of the land management with our forest management plan as well as our draft HCP that we're pursuing. So that's the
Terrific.
details.
Terrific, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, questions?
I really don't. It sounds like it's fairly routine, and then as was just mentioned, it's not mandatory, but it's probably a good idea. It's almost always a good idea to go on the record in writing. So yes, I will certainly support this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I support it as well. I know we talked, Kate and I have had quite a few conversations
you.
recently around the Habitat Conservation Plan, and as well as just what's happening in our forests. And so with the Swiss Needlecast piece of this, the other thing that I noted in your information you sent is that there's an opportunity then to also get funding to
Right.
help support the process as we are removing trees with Swiss Needlecast and planting appropriate trees that will economically provide, a stronger growth and better carbon sequestration. And there's just a number of things that happen, but there's also the potential then for funding to support some of that, because what we look at in part, of course, is as we are harvesting these trees, we are not necessarily going to get the same amount of revenue that we are getting out of our other healthier fir trees. So this is an opportunity to do the right thing, which is harvest and replace, and hopefully have some financial support in doing that
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
Terrific. I'm supportive as well, and thank you for being here with us.
Yeah.
okay, Madam Chair, in consideration of a letter of support for the Oregon Department of Forestry's community-initiated project request, I would move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you for
Thank you, Kate.
Item 14 is consideration of modification number 2 to Professional Services Agreement 6398 with McKinstry Accession LLC for the Comprehensive Facility and Energy Assessment and Space Planning Project. Rachel Haggerty, Chief of Staff.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
This is an amendment to extend the term of this agreement through April 30th of 2024. We hired McKinstry last June to conduct a countywide facilities and energy assessment. The assessment is completed for all the facilities. I have shared the spreadsheets with department heads that have the facilities and have provided them with recommendations from McKinstry at this point to begin preparing their budgets. The primary purpose for the extension is to continue with the final reporting, which I have a draft of, and due to some scheduling conflicts, the presentation of the report and how to use the spreadsheets and the online tool that they'll be developing will be presented to leadership at the April 1st meeting. So this allows a little bit of time for that, as well as the contract includes work for McKinstry to work with the health department in their space planning work. So that is wrapping up as well. So everything is going well, and we're just needing a little bit more time to complete the work and present at the leadership team in April.
Terrific.
And it's being paid out of ARPA and health department dollars.
Terrific. Thank you. Commissioners? Commissioner Scott?
I'm happy to do the extension, excited to see the product. I know I sit on the board at the Pioneer Museum. We were able to get some early looks at some of the things related to the Pioneer Museum building, which were better than we expected, so that was really exciting. And then also sitting on the Health Council, I've had a chance to get a couple peeks at what they're doing for the health department as we look at needing more space for medical services and how that might be accomplished through buildings that we have or others. So it's definitely a good project. I am excited and pleased and looking forward to the full analysis. I think I asked Sean this before, and I didn't ask her before this meeting. When we look at the assets on our balance sheet that are related to our facilities, it is a significant number. And we really need to make sure that we are managing our facilities as we move through time. You know, this is a 1932 courthouse. We've talked quite a bit about this recently, but facilities require upkeep, facilities require maintenance, and we do seem to keep things forever, looking at the 1932 courthouse. And if that's going to be the case for us, we have to take good care. So I'm excited to see the rest of our facilities, their condition, and what we need to do to be good stewards of the Commonwealth. Right? These are buildings and things owned essentially by the public, and it's our job to make sure they're well cared for and that their life cycle is long and useful.
Thank you. Commissioner?
Thank you. My only comment is I'm familiar with McKinstry and their group. They've been around a long time. They know what they're doing. They're good people. And also the price of energy, when you look at a life cycle of a building, the energy component is a significant amount of what it costs to own a building and operate a building. So to the extent we're looking at savings and things that could be redone, or maybe some things are just fine, this is fairly routine, moving it out a little bit. And I'm sure that Rachel will keep the pressure on them to get it done. And so I'm good with that and full support. So let's get it done.
Terrific. I'm excited to see all the reports also. I received the report for Parks yesterday, but I haven't had a chance to dig into it yet. So I'll be interested to hear what they have to say about our Parks office building that used to be a picnic shelter and then got framed in.
Brace yourself for the numbers that are requiring maintenance, if you haven't opened the file yet.
I have not opened the
Okay.
file yet, but I won't be surprised. Yeah, thank you. So I think this is great work, and I'm eager to get going with it and happy to extend it.
Perfect. Madam Chair, in consideration of modification number 2 to professional services agreement number 6398 with McKinstry Accession LLC for the comprehensive facility and energy assessment and space planning project, I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, and item 15 is consideration of a U.S. Senate fiscal year 2025 congressionally directed spending request for the Quandah Corridor Project intersection at Cape Quandah Drive, Pacific Avenue, and Sunset Drive. Again, Rachel Haggerty, Chief of Staff.
You just approved a support letter for Oregon Department of Forestry's request. This is the county's request to the same process. So this is an earmark or appropriation through the Senate for a specific funding account, the Highway Infrastructure Program under the Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development Subcommittee. So we are requesting $3.645 million to fund the design, permitting, and construction of the intersection at Cape Quandah Drive and Pacific Avenue and Sunset Avenue in Pacific City. This is the second phase, or the second strategy that the board has elected to proceed with as part of the Quandah Corridor Project. You approved the Quandah Corridor Project concept plan in 2022. We are proceeding with the construction of the Cape Quandah parking lot that is underway and wrapping up this summer, as you're well aware. And the group has agreed that the next phase that we'd like to proceed is at the intersection there by the Jensen property. And so the limitation is funding at this point. We have put a lot of TLT funding into the Cape Quandah parking lot, and we don't want to do that again because we have other projects that we need to fund. And so while there may be a small portion of TLT funding or the day use fees going toward other elements, we can't be putting millions of dollars into those at this point. So we're hoping that we can get this funded through this program. I have allocated $100,000 if it's awarded from day use fees, which would come in the coming years. As you know, this process takes a long time to get through. So we're still a couple of years out in needing that, which we would have the funding for. So this is ready for your consideration. We applied last year and it wasn't funded. This is the only project that fits any funding account that we are prepared to submit at this time. There are other funding accounts that we have projects that fit, but we've already applied and received funding for, and so there's just lots of strings and sideboards that restrict us being able to continue to apply for funding. So we do have one, and we're gonna go for it. And it's due February 25th, and this is on the Senate side. We have no guidance yet for the House side, so we may apply for this on the House side or have other opportunities to apply for earmarks on the House side when it becomes available, probably later this spring.
Terrific, thank you. Commissioners, any questions or comments?
Well, my comments, I've been through that intersection a couple of thousand times, I guess, over the years, and it is one of the most poorly designed, unusual. It's a T intersection there at Cape Coanda Drive. You come, if you're going south, you either turn right on Pacific Avenue and run into a sand dune, or you turn left and you cross a bridge. And the people coming from the east, crossing the bridge, it's a free right turn, but then you have to stop and go forward. And I've seen other designs. I think there was a roundabout design maybe 10, 12 years ago, some group, and then there's been others. There's been accidents there. I don't know if there's ever been a fatal accident, but likely there has. And it's just one of the more confusing. You're overwhelmed with signs, and it's very easy to tell the people who are not living there because they all come to a complete stop. They have no idea what to do next. And it's a giant blockade when the traffic is heavy in the summer, not to mention the safety issues. And there's also a giant transformer there for our electrical service that'll have to be relocated. It needs attention. If ever there was an intersection in Tillamook County that needs work, this would be it. So obviously you got my support on that, and I hope it goes through and it's part of a much bigger project. But it's one of those things where the signage could be improved, and we may end up with a signal, who knows? But what's there now is not sustainable in my judgment, so thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. This is a great opportunity to put forward a congressionally directed spending project. Interestingly, when I was in DC and we were talking about these sorts of things, part of the challenge in getting that money, as I understand it, is that we just keep funding our government with continuing resolutions rather than approving a full budget. And so a continuing resolution at the federal level means that you get funded what you got funded in the prior cycle. And these congressionally directed spending pieces are not in that prior cycle. So they just sit and wait for an actual full budget allocation to come through. So if you are someone who communicates with your federal legislators, please let them know how important it is to pass an actual budget and get out of the cycle of continuing resolutions, because there are a number of funding opportunities that basically at the federal level cannot move forward without a completed budget. So just a big picture look at what we're working on. But thank you, Rachel, for putting this together and doing the work to figure out what qualifies and what doesn't, and all of the pieces that go into this very sort of fast-paced process.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for your work. I fully support the project. I concur that it's much needed, and we still receive questions about why does the Board of County Commissioners invest so much in Pacific City? So we'll just keep answering the question, because Pacific City is not a city, which makes it confusing because it seems like it would be. But it's not a city, and so the county is responsible for Pacific City for the roads and public amenities. And so that's why. That's why we continue to invest in Pacific City. And so I'm fully supportive, and I'm ready for a motion.
Okay, Madam Chair, in consideration of a U.S. Senate fiscal year 2025 congressionally directed spending request for the Kiwanda Corridor Project intersection at Cape Coanda Drive, Pacific Avenue, and Sunset Drive, I move approval.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Well, good luck to us. I hope we get that.
Good luck to us.
The only thing that Senators Murphy and Wyden can champion for.
Right.
It's interesting, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
and it's because we've received 2 years of broadband, correct? I think that's one of the exciting pieces is the last, we've received 1 year or 2 year? 1 year.
We've received 2 years of broadband,
Right.
but that is through, that's the House side.
Okay,
So all we have received on the Senate side, since I've been doing this, is the COPS funding, the COPS, that's an acronym, funding for the radio project,
gotcha.
2 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, so we can apply for that hopefully again next year because you have to have a break, I think, right, between, maybe, hopefully?
We're already past that, and we're not supposed to apply.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
darn it.
I know.
So talk to your federal legislators as well about opening up that criteria a bit.
Yeah, it is interesting that the criteria is so specific that we have a list of projects we'd like to fund, but this is the only project that fit all of those criteria. So that's why this is the
Yeah.
only one. So we'll keep our fingers crossed for that. My fellow commissioners, board concerns?
Not today, thank you.
No, nothing. When we have a work session again, or maybe a week from today, we can talk about a few other things, but this would not be the right venue. Thank you.
Okay, all right. We'll move into announcements. There is no board briefing today. However, the commissioners will attend a work session with the Committee on Vision, Mission, and Values Wednesday, February 21st, 2024 at 2 p.m. today. The work session will be held in the Board of Commissioners Meeting Room 106 at 201 Laurel Avenue, Tillamook. The teleconference number is 971-254-3149. Conference ID 469-778-911#. The commissioners will attend a Tillamook Lightwave meeting on Tuesday, February 27th, 2024 at 9:30 a.m. The teleconference number is 253-215-6782, conference ID 899-5732-9678#. And that meeting information can be found on our website. So with that, if we have nothing else, this meeting is adjourned at 10:45 a.m. All right. So the Lightwave meeting, are we all going to that? What's up with the Lightwave meeting next week?
Well, the college, as you probably know, is ready to take the next step, I think. And I'm actually meeting with them tomorrow with Dr. Gerald and a couple other people, and so we'll see where that goes. The